What if the greatest power you possess is not found in the strength of your feelings, but in your ability to act wisely in spite of them? In a world that tells us to follow our heart and trust our gut, what if the path to a better life lies in letting reason, not emotion, hold the throne of your mind? This is the path of the Stoic, and today you will learn its secrets. Don't let emotions make your decisions. Compiled and published by Stoic Power. Lesson 1. Understanding emotional triggers. Imagine you are a brilliant detective arriving at the scene of a chaotic crime. The room is in disarray, things are broken, and there's a palpable sense of disorder. A foolish detective might simply react to the chaos, shouting orders, making accusations, and adding to the confusion. But a master detective does the opposite. He stands at the doorway, silent and still, and he begins to search not for someone to blame, but for the cause. He looks for the subtle clues, the fingerprint on the glass, the mud on the carpet, the unlocked window, the triggers that set the entire chaotic event in motion. The inner conflict for most of us is that we are the foolish detective in the crime scene of our own emotional lives. We are constantly reacting to the chaos without ever understanding its source. The painful problem is that we are frequently hijacked by our own emotions, making poor, impulsive decisions without any real insight into what caused the sudden emotional shift in the first place. A wave of anger, a surge of anxiety, or a dip into despair can completely take over our decision-making faculty, and we feel like a helpless victim of this inner turmoil. We say to ourselves, "I don't know what came over me," because we have never been trained to look for the clues, to identify the specific triggers that are the root cause of our emotional reactions. This leaves us feeling powerless, unpredictable, and at the mercy of moods that seem to appear from nowhere. The transformative solution is to stop being a victim of the crime and to become the master detective of your own inner world, learning to identify the precise triggers that ignite your emotional responses. The core idea is that our emotions, no matter how powerful and overwhelming they feel, do not materialize out of thin air. They are almost always ignited by a specific trigger, which is typically a combination of an external event and an internal belief we hold about that event. The external event is the spark, but our underlying beliefs, insecurities, and values are the dry kindling waiting to catch fire. A trigger for one person might be completely neutral for another, because their inner landscape, their kindling, is different. The benefit of becoming a self-aware detective is that it is the first and most critical step toward emotional freedom. Once you can clearly see the cause and effect relationship between a trigger and your emotional response, you are no longer a helpless victim of the pattern. You gain the power to intervene, to manage the kindling, and to choose your response to the spark. This is the beginning of moving from a reactive life to a proactive one. The actionable step to begin your detective work is to start a trigger log. Keep a small notebook or a note on your phone for 1 week. Every time you notice yourself making a decision driven by a strong, negative emotion, take a moment to work backward. Ask yourself these questions. 1. What was the specific emotion I was feeling? Name it: anger, jealousy, fear, etc. What decision did this emotion lead me to make? 3. Working backward, what was the precise objective event that happened right before the emotion started? This is the trigger. 4. What underlying belief or insecurity of mine did that trigger ignite? This is the kindling. For example, I felt anger and decided to send a curt email. The trigger was my boss criticizing my work in a meeting. The underlying belief was I am not good enough and I must defend my competence at all costs. By logging these events, you will begin to see the hidden patterns that run your life. You will discover that it's often the same few triggers and the same few underlying beliefs that are causing the majority of your emotional turmoil. This knowledge is pure gold. It is the blueprint of your own psychological prison, and it is the key to your escape. I urge you to begin your investigation this week. Become the curious and compassionate detective of your own mind. Understanding our triggers is the first step, but even when we know the trigger, the emotional response can be overwhelmingly powerful. How do we build the strength to resist its pull? Our next lesson is on mastering self-control techniques. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the Stoic Power channel to continue your training as a master of your inner world. Lesson 2. Mastering self-control techniques. Picture a skilled charioteer in an ancient Roman circus standing in a small chariot pulled by two powerful, wild, and spirited horses. The horses represent your emotions and your impulses. They are magnificent, full of energy and life, but they are not rational. They can be spooked by a shadow or enraged by a rival. The inner conflict for the charioteer, and for each of us, is to hold the reins firmly and guide this immense power in a chosen direction. The foolish charioteer either lets the reins go slack, allowing the horses to drag him wherever they please, or he tries to beat them into submission, exhausting himself and injuring the animals. The painful problem we face is that we often know what the right, rational decision is, but we feel utterly powerless to execute it because our emotional horses are too strong. The horses of anger, fear, or desire pull us violently in the opposite direction of our own wisdom. Fear tells us not to take the healthy risk. Desire tells us to seek the harmful pleasure. Anger tells us to say the destructive word. In these moments, we feel a profound and painful gap between our rational self and our emotional self, and the emotional self almost always wins. This leads to a life of regret, where we consistently fail to live up to the standards we set for ourselves. The transformative solution is to stop either surrendering to the horses or fighting them, and instead to become the skilled charioteer who practices the art of masterful self-control, guiding the energy of the emotions without being destroyed by them. The core idea is that self-control is not a magical quality you are either born with or not. It is a trainable, practical skill. The Stoics saw it as the virtue of temperance, the ability to moderate one's desires and to act with reason even when the passions are strong. Self-control is not about suppressing your emotions into non-existence. It is about creating a crucial pause between an emotional impulse and a physical action. In that pause, your rational mind, the charioteer, has a chance to take hold of the reins. The benefit of developing this skill is that you become the person you intend to be. You close the painful gap between your values and your actions. You build deep self-trust and self-respect because you know that you are in command of yourself, even under pressure. This creates a powerful sense of personal integrity and inner peace. The actionable step to begin this training is to master a physiological technique that allows you to create that essential pause. One of the most effective is box breathing. When you feel yourself being overwhelmed by a strong emotion that is about to drive a bad decision, you must stop and breathe in a square. Inhale slowly for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 4, and hold the exhale for a count of 4. Repeat this cycle 4 or 5 times. This simple breathing technique is used by elite soldiers and athletes because it has a powerful effect on your nervous system. It manually down-regulates your body's fight-or-flight response, lowers your heart rate, and pulls you out of the panicked, emotional part of your brain and back into the calm, rational part. It is a physical tool to create a mental space. I challenge you to practice box breathing once a day when you are calm so that the technique becomes familiar. Then, the next time you feel a strong emotion pulling you toward a poor decision, use it. Become the charioteer who knows how to handle his horses. Self-control techniques give us a tool to manage overwhelming emotions. But how do we get better at noticing those emotions before they become overwhelming? Our next lesson is on cultivating deep emotional awareness. If you are ready to take the reins of your own life, please like this video. Lesson 3. Cultivating emotional awareness. Imagine you are the captain of a ship at sea, and it is your responsibility to navigate through changing weather patterns. A foolish captain would lock himself in his cabin and ignore the sky. He would only become aware of a storm when the waves were already crashing over the deck and the mast was beginning to crack, at which point it is often too late to take effective action. A wise captain, however, constantly scans the horizon. He has learned to read the subtle signs in the clouds, the small shifts in the wind, the changing color of the water. He can feel a storm coming long before it arrives, which gives him ample time to prepare his ship, adjust his course, and navigate through the weather with skill and foresight. The inner conflict we face is that we are often the foolish captain of our own emotional weather system. The painful problem is that many of us are almost completely unaware of our own emotional state until it has already escalated into a full-blown storm. We don't notice the subtle signs of rising irritation until we explode in anger. We don't recognize the quiet whispers of anxiety until we are in the grip of a full-blown panic attack. By the time we are aware of the emotion, it is already in control of our thoughts and our decisions. We are constantly being surprised and overwhelmed by our own inner weather, which makes it impossible to manage it effectively. The transformative solution is to become the wise, weather-aware captain of your own mind. Through the daily practice of mindful self-awareness, learning to recognize the subtle, early signs of an emotional shift. The core Stoic idea is that you cannot manage what you do not measure, and you cannot control what you are not aware of. The practice of prososh, or paying close, continuous attention to one's own inner state, was central to their philosophy. They understood that self-awareness is the essential first step to self-mastery. You must become a connoisseur of your own feelings, able to identify them with precision when they are small and manageable, not just when they are large and overwhelming. The benefit of this is that you move from being a reactive victim of your moods to being a proactive manager of them. You catch the storm when it is just a small cloud on the horizon, giving you ample time to use your other tools to navigate it wisely. This prevents countless emotional outbursts and poor decisions, and leads to a much more stable and peaceful inner life. The actionable step to cultivate this awareness is to practice the hourly check-in. Set a quiet, gentle alarm or reminder on your phone or watch to go off once every hour of your waking day. When it sounds, simply pause for 15 seconds. Take one deep breath and ask yourself, what is my current emotional state? Then, try to name the specific feeling with one word: calm, anxious, content, irritated, tired. Do this without judgment. The goal is not to feel a certain way, but simply to become aware of how you do feel, moment by moment. This simple, repetitive practice will train your mind to be more aware of its own state. It is like constantly scanning the horizon. You will get better and better at noticing the subtle shifts in your inner weather. The feelings that used to ambush you will no longer be a surprise. I urge you to try this practice for just one day. See how much more connected you feel to your own inner world. Awareness is the key to managing our emotions. But what is the practical difference between being managed by an emotion and choosing a wise path? Our next lesson is on the crucial distinction between responding and reacting. To support our channel, please comment below and share what you discover from your first day of hourly check-ins. Lesson 4. Responding, not reacting. Imagine a highly trained fire chief arriving at the scene of a large, chaotic building fire. A rookie firefighter might react impulsively to the flames. He would see fire and just start spraying water randomly, driven by the urgency and the adrenaline of the moment, potentially making the situation worse by pushing the fire into new areas or ignoring a more critical, unseen danger. The experienced fire chief, however, does not react. He responds. He stops at a safe distance, he assesses the situation calmly, he considers the wind direction, he identifies the structure's weak points, and he formulates a strategic plan of attack. Only then does he direct his team to act in a coordinated and effective way. The inner conflict we face, especially when under pressure, is the battle between our impulse to react like the rookie and our capacity to act like the wise chief. The painful problem is that our decisions, particularly in conflicts or high-stakes situations, are often knee-jerk reactions that escalate problems rather than solving them. In an argument, we hear a criticism, and our immediate reaction is to fire back with a criticism of our own. At work, we receive bad news, and our immediate reaction is to catastrophize or blame someone. These emotional, thoughtless reactions are like spraying water randomly at a fire. They are driven by the heat of the moment and often make the situation far worse. leading to damaged relationships and poor outcomes. The transformative solution is to deliberately and consciously choose a reasoned, strategic response over an emotional, tactical reaction in every important situation. The core idea here is a deep dive into the practical application of the Stoic concept of the hegemonikon, or the ruling faculty of the mind. The Stoics saw our emotions and initial impressions as scouts reporting from the field. These scouts are often panicked and unreliable. The ruling faculty is the calm, rational general back at headquarters. Its job is to receive the panicked report from the scout, but not to immediately act on it. Its job is to pause, assess the report against the larger map of its values and goals, and then issue a calm, strategic command. A reaction is letting the scout give the orders. A response is letting the general give the orders. The benefit of this is that you become an incredibly effective human being. You stop making problems worse. You develop a reputation for being calm under pressure, thoughtful, and wise. People will trust your judgment because they know it is not clouded by emotional reactivity. The actionable step to train this ability is to use an if-then plan. This is a form of proactive response planning. Identify a recurring situation where you tend to react poorly. Then create a simple plan in this format. If the specific trigger happens, then I will my chosen, wise, pre-planned response. For example, if my partner criticizes my driving, then I will take a deep breath and say, "Thank you for looking out for our safety," instead of getting defensive. Or, if I receive a stressful email at work, then I will wait at least 1 hour before writing a reply. By creating these simple plans beforehand, when you are calm and rational, you are giving your future emotional self a clear and simple order from the general. You are much more likely to follow this pre-planned response than to invent a wise one in the heat of the moment. I challenge you to create one if-then plan this week for a situation that often triggers you. Prepare your response before the fire starts. Responding wisely requires a rational mind. But how do we practice thinking rationally when our emotions are telling us compelling, irrational stories? Our next lesson is on the art of practicing rational thought. Please subscribe to Stoic Power to continue your training in wise and effective living. Lesson 5. Practicing rational thought. Imagine you are a wise judge presiding over a courtroom. A passionate, emotional, and very convincing lawyer is presenting a case to you. This lawyer represents your feelings. He is eloquent, he tells compelling stories, he pulls at your heartstrings, and he argues with fiery conviction. He might argue, "This situation is a catastrophe. We have been grievously wronged, and we must seek immediate and harsh justice." The inner conflict for the judge is whether to be swayed by this powerful emotional appeal or to base the final verdict on the cold, hard evidence and the established laws of reason. A foolish judge would be swept up in the lawyer's emotional performance and deliver a verdict based on feeling. A wise judge, however, would listen to the passionate arguments and then turn to the evidence with a calm, dispassionate, and rational mind. The painful problem for most of us is that we are the foolish judge. Our emotions make convincing but often highly illogical and exaggerated arguments, and we believe them instantly without any cross-examination. Fear tells us a story of absolute catastrophe. Anger tells us a story of malicious injustice. Anxiety tells us a story of guaranteed failure. We accept these emotionally charged narratives as fact, and then we make our decisions based on this flawed, biased testimony. The transformative solution is to become the wise judge of your own mind, to learn the art of putting your own emotional thoughts on the witness stand and cross-examining them with the power of reason. The core idea here is the foundation of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a technique that has its roots directly in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics knew, 2,000 years ago, that our feelings do not come directly from events, but from the thoughts and beliefs we have about those events. And crucially, they knew that our thoughts are not always true. They can be disputed, they can be challenged, and they can be changed. You do not have to believe everything you think, especially when you are emotional. The benefit of this is that you break the spell of your own negative emotions. You learn to see them not as infallible truths, but as debatable propositions. This gives you the power to choose a wiser, more rational perspective, which in turn leads to calmer emotions and better decisions. The actionable step is to practice the cross-examination. When you feel a strong, negative emotion that is influencing a decision, take out your journal and identify the specific thought that is fueling the emotion. Put that thought on trial by asking it these questions, as if you were a skeptical lawyer. 1. Is this thought 100% true without a shadow of a doubt? 2. What is the hard evidence for this thought? And what is the hard evidence against it? 3. What is a less emotional, more rational, and more compassionate way to view the situation? 4. If a friend came to me with this exact thought, what wise advice would I give them? This process of rational disputation is incredibly powerful. It forces you to look at your own thinking objectively and to see its flaws. You will often find that your emotional thoughts are based on cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing, black and white thinking, or mind reading. I urge you to put one of your recurring anxious or angry thoughts on the witness stand this week. Cross-examine it ruthlessly with reason. A rational mind makes better decisions, but how do we ensure those decisions are not just clever, but also good? Our next lesson is on aligning our actions with our deepest values. If you're ready to become the wise judge of your own mind, please like this video. Lesson 6. Aligning actions with values. Imagine a ship sailing across a vast, dark ocean at night. The captain's ultimate destination is a distant, unseen shore. His most important navigational tool is the North Star, a fixed, constant, and reliable point of light in the sky. The winds and the currents, representing his fleeting emotions and immediate circumstances, may push his ship east or west. He may have to tack and jibe and adjust his course constantly. But as long as he keeps his eye on the North Star, he knows his ultimate direction is true. That star is his ultimate guide. The inner conflict we face is that we often try to navigate the ocean of life without a North Star. Or worse, we let the shifting winds of our emotions become our guide. The painful problem is that when we make our major life decisions based on fleeting feelings, like fear, desire, envy, or anger, we are almost guaranteed to be blown off course from the person we truly want to be. This creates a painful and widening gap between our daily actions and our deepest, most cherished values. We say that integrity is important, but we make a decision out of fear that compromises it. We say that family is our priority, but we make a decision out of ambition that harms it. This lack of congruence is a source of deep inner turmoil, shame, and regret. We feel lost because we have lost sight of our own guiding star. The transformative solution is to consciously define your core values, your North Star, and to use them as the ultimate filter for your decisions, especially when your emotions are high and the winds are blowing fiercely. The core Stoic idea is the goal of living a virtuous life, or a life in accordance with nature. For the Stoics, a good decision was not one that felt good or led to a pleasant outcome, but one that was aligned with the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, reason and clear judgment, courage, doing the right thing despite fear, justice, being fair and kind to others, and temperance, self-control and moderation. These virtues are the Stoics' North Star. The benefit of this approach is that it provides a powerful, unchanging framework for making good decisions. It allows you to rise above the confusing fog of your immediate emotions and make a choice that your future self will be proud of. It leads to a life of profound integrity and self-respect, the feeling of being a whole person whose actions and beliefs are in perfect alignment. The actionable step is to first define your values compass. Take some time to identify your top 3 to 5 personal core values. Write them down. Then the next time you face a significant decision, especially one that is clouded by strong emotion, pause and ask yourself this simple but powerful question: which of my available choices is most in line with my value of insert your core value, integrity, courage, kindness? This question acts as your navigational tool. It cuts through the emotional noise and reorients you toward your North Star. You will often find that the choice that aligns with your values is not the easiest choice, or the one that feels best in the moment, but is always the one that leads to long-term peace and self-respect. I challenge you this week to define your values and to use this values compass on one important decision you are facing. Let your values, not your fleeting emotions, guide your ship. We have now learned to make wise, value-driven decisions. But how do we make this a lasting habit? How do we build a character that does this automatically? Our final lesson is on building lasting emotional resilience. Please comment below and share one core value that will be on your compass. Lesson 7. Building lasting emotional resilience. Imagine a warrior forging a great shield. He does not create it in a single day. The process is long and deliberate. He starts with raw metal and, through a process of repeated heating in the fire and hammering on the anvil, he slowly shapes it. With each blow of the hammer, the metal becomes denser, stronger, and more resilient. Each time he cools it, it tempers and hardens. Over time, through thousands of consistent, purposeful strikes, he creates a shield that is not only strong but also beautiful, capable of deflecting the most powerful blows in battle. The final inner conflict we face is our desire for a quick fix. We want emotional mastery now. We treat it like a destination we can arrive at, rather than a quality of character that must be forged over a lifetime. The painful problem is that this mindset leads to discouragement. When we inevitably make an emotional mistake, we feel like a failure and are tempted to give up entirely. We believe that emotional resilience is something you either have or you don't, rather than something you build. This prevents us from engaging in the patient, daily work that is required to forge a truly resilient character. We want the shield without being willing to endure the long, repetitive process of the forge. The transformative solution is the final integration of all the previous lessons into a single, cohesive, daily discipline. It is the understanding that lasting emotional resilience is the outcome of consistently practicing these skills, day after day, until they become second nature. The core idea is that emotional resilience is not a starting point. It is the emergent property of a well-lived, disciplined life. It is the shield that is slowly and patiently created by every single time you choose to practice these arts. Every time you identify a trigger, you're hammering the shield. Every time you practice the pause, you're hammering the shield. Every time you challenge a thought, align a decision with your values, or cultivate awareness, you are in the forge, hammering your shield, making it stronger and more capable of protecting your inner peace. The benefit is that you build a character that is unshakable. Your ability to make wise, rational decisions becomes your default setting, not a rare occurrence. You develop a deep, quiet confidence that you can handle whatever life throws at you, because you know you have forged the shield to do so. The actionable step is to synthesize all these practices into a simple, daily Stoic review. This can be a 5-minute practice that bookends your day. In the morning, briefly review your value compass, lesson 6, and set an intention to practice one of the skills during the day, e.g., today, I will practice responding, not reacting. In the evening, conduct your simple review, lesson 4. What went well? Where did I fall short? What is the lesson for tomorrow? This daily ritual is the hammer and the fire. This consistent, low-effort practice is what creates massive, lasting change over time. It is how you forge your character. I urge you to commit to this simple 2-part daily review for 1 month. See it as your daily commitment to working on your shield. This is the ultimate path to ensuring that your life is guided not by the turbulent storms of emotion, but by the calm, clear light of your own well-practiced reason. We have journeyed through the 7 disciplines of the Stoic mind, from understanding our emotional triggers to forging the unbreakable shield of resilience. This path teaches us that the ultimate freedom is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to feel deeply while choosing to let our wisest self, our inner reason, always make the final decision. Thank you for taking this time to learn how to build a life of reason and peace. If this video has served you, please like, comment with your greatest takeaway, and subscribe to the Stoic Power channel for more content on forging a strong and unconquerable mind.